Hi children, how are you? This is me, your science teacher, and with a new lesson of biological processes in human body. I hope you enjoyed last few lessons that we have conducted through the web series, and this class will be very interesting. And this part of biology is very interesting, and it makes you more interested of exploring about your own body. And there are lots of processes, and they are happening in a perfectly organized way, and our body is structured, well prepared to perform all these activities in a very creative manner. And by studying these lessons, and you will study and you can understand, you can feel the beauty of creation, how beautifully and how intellectually and this model is designed. And as here you can see, we have lots of topics, lots of process in our human body, and and from grade 6 we are learning so many things, so many processes. Very familiar processes are digestion, respiration, excretion, reproduction, homeostasis, and blood circulation. And out of this, we are going to complete here 5 human biological processes in human body and except reproduction that you have learned very clearly in grade 10. And it's grade 11, and today I'm going to start with the excretion. Now, what is excretion? And it is very simple, removing waste materials. And in our body, there are lots of biological processes happening. Chemical reactions are happening. Thousands of chemical reactions in our body and in any organism's body. And that chemical reactions will produce different types of products. And out of those products, and some of them are required. That may be the purpose of that chemical reaction. But there will be some byproduct or the product of that chemical reaction which are not required for the body. And not only required for the body, and the accumulation, addition of those substances into our body may cause poisoning, a lot of other problems in the physiological activities of the human body. So you can see, I told thousands of chemical reactions, different types of chemical reactions, and all these chemical reactions together we define them as metabolism. And metabolism means, children, it includes all the chemical reactions happen inside the human body. And if you take all these metabolism, right, certain criteria are there. A metabolic activity, how can we define, and this is a metabolic reaction? There are certain things. It should be a chemical reaction, there is no doubt it should be a chemical reaction. You know what other factors should be there to be a chemical reaction. There should be reactants, and after certain time, and it should produce a product. That is a chemical reaction. Product should be different from a new thing should be produced during that reaction. And the second one is about that chemical reaction should happen inside a living cell. Then we can consider that chemical reaction as a metabolic, biochemical metabolic reaction. And if you take the metabolic reactions, there are 2 types of metabolic reactions. The one type is anabolism, the second type is catabolism. So what does mean by this anabolism and catabolism? For example, if you take anabolism, there are 2 types of chemical reaction we can define in this case of metabolism. The first one is combining small chemical components and making a larger molecule. For example, we can take photosynthesis as one of that. For example, carbon dioxide and water molecule, and they are smaller, and combining these 2 molecules, the plants produce glucose, relatively a larger molecule. Then it will be converted into starch, right? Like it goes like that. So simply anabolism means combining smaller components and producing a bigger molecule. And if you take the catabolism, and that is completely opposite to this. And how can it be? Right? And take a large molecule and break them into smaller components. Right? And that is called as catabolism. Right? Again, children, and take a bigger molecule and break them into smaller required molecules is called as catabolism. A very famous example in this regard is respiration. In the product produced by the plants, the glucose will be taken by the animals or in a different forms, maybe starch or polysaccharides, and it will be digested into monosaccharides and enter into the mitochondria of the cells. You know, mitochondria is the powerhouse, the place of a cell where energy is produced. And then what will happen after that? And they will be broken into smaller components of carbon dioxide and water. You see, in the plants, carbon dioxide and water are combined to produce glucose, but in the animals, inside the mitochondria, and the glucose is broken into carbon dioxide and water molecules. While these are breaking, and we need the purpose of the cells of breaking of glucose is to produce energy. But during this chemical reaction, energy is produced, carbon dioxide is produced, water is produced. But only energy is required. But other two are carbon dioxide and water are waste product that is not required. The accumulation of carbon dioxide and water in our body may cause serious problems. For example, accumulation of carbon dioxide reduce the pH value of blood, or it increase the acidity of blood. And instead, the accumulation of water increase the pressure in the human body. So we have to release them. So this releasing of waste materials is called excretion. So you know, children, and what should be a waste material? And that the waste material should be produced from a metabolic activity that is not required for the body. And if it is not from a metabolic activity and it is not considered as a waste material, and that removing of that matters may not be considered as excretion. You may have a doubt. So what are the waste materials mainly formed? Just now I have told you two important things: carbon dioxide and water vapor. What are the other waste materials in our body? There are lots of waste materials, but we are going to study the very important waste materials in our body. Then I have a list of the excretory products. The first one is carbon dioxide and water. And we may have excess ions in our body, so removing them is important. So it becomes an excretory product. Salts, and then you can see the important part here. Let me highlight by the red marker: urea, uric acid, and creatinine. I will tell you why I have highlighted them in a different color. These two are, if you take certain organs in our body is adapted to do the excretion. Means they are adapted to release the waste material from our body. If you take what are the organs performing this excretory work, and very initially we can name 3 organs which are performing excretion. And sometimes when I say the first 2, you may be excited. Are they doing excretion? But yes, of course, but not as a full-time job, and they are doing as a part-time activity, or they are doing another ultimate job, and into that it will be considered. It may happen as a part of that their ultimate work. For example, if you take the first organ, excretory organ, is lungs. Lungs that we breathe. So we may think that is a part of a respiratory system, but at the same time it acts as a excretory organ in the respiratory system. You can see children here, and what are the products it releases from our body? You can see very clearly. We takes the air and inside our lungs, and it goes to the alveoli, and in the alveoli the oxygen is separated and taken into the blood and distributing all over the body. And at the same time you can see carbon dioxide and water vapor from the blood is exchanged into alveoli, comes to the lungs and released out. So exhalation, breathing out, is one of the excretory work that the lungs perform. So by exhalation, lungs release carbon dioxide and water vapor. The first organ is lungs. So what is the second organ of excretory organ? That is the skin. You can see skin performs a lot of different functions. It acts as a sense organ, and the sense organ, the main activity is sense organ. The second one you can see, right, while the environment is hot, the hotter than the 38 degrees Celsius, your body temperature, so your body tend to keep your body in a constant temperature. So they have a mechanism to release the heat in the form of sweat. So it has done by the sweat glands. You can see in your skin you have two different types of glands, the sebaceous glands and sweat glands. Sweat glands, what are they doing? They take the heat from your body and give them into the water, make that water vapor, and that comes through the sweat glands, through the skin. So the main purpose is maintain the temperature. In order to maintain the temperature, they use water, and when the water comes out, it does not come alone, it comes with some other allies, and those are some amount of urea and the salts. Ions will be released out, the excess amount, right? The materials which are named as waste materials will be released as sweat by the skin, and especially sweat glands. So lungs and the skin act as excretory organ. So what is the ultimate organ that performs the excretion as a full-time job? If you ask that questions, and you will be very clear, and that is nothing but the kidney. So kidney works as a full-time excretory organ, and it includes one of the main organ of excretory system. So if you ask why it is specialized for that, so its ultimate purpose is excretion, and then you can see the out of different waste materials, one of the important group of waste materials we can categorize, that is nitrogenous waste materials. That means the waste material which contains nitrogen as a component. You can see there are a lot of things contain nitrogen in our body. You have studied in grade 10 the first chemical basis of organisms or life, right? If you take the protein, nucleic acids, they both contain nitrogen as the main component in their structure. You can see in our body we have lots of different types of protein in different part of our body acting as a structural component. For example, we can take our blood cell, one of the blood cell, that is RBC, red blood cells. And what are they doing? The main thing is they carry the oxygen and they have a lifetime inside the body, 120 days lifetime, and after that lifetime it will be taken into the liver and spleen. They will be broken into pieces. The important materials will be taken back for the further production of RBCs, and unwanted, the old expired protein components will be broken into smaller components. That means catabolism. We call that protein catabolism. The breaking down of protein into smaller molecules. That molecule is urea. So it contains nitrogen. So it is very dangerous, very poisonous, accumulation of urea in our body, it may kill us because of poisoning, and it can change the pH value of our blood. So it is very dangerous, and we have to release that in a specific way, and the urinary system, our kidney, is very specialized to perform that action. You can see again the urea or uric acid is a product of protein catabolism that happens in the liver. That is very clear. You have to be very clear. The kidney excrete, remove the urea from the body, but it is produced in the liver. Okay, children, these are the organs, and this is how we define the waste materials. Let me give you a small summary. If you want to define anything in our body as a waste material, it should be a product of metabolic activity. So what are the metabolic activity? There are two conditions. One, it should be a chemical reaction. Second, it should happen inside a living cell. Then it will be considered as a waste material. And if you take the plants, they also perform a lot of chemical reaction. Very special one is photosynthesis. You know, carbon dioxide and water are combined together to produce glucose and oxygen. You can see here the glucose is the ultimate product that plant requires. The oxygen is a byproduct, and releasing oxygen produced by photosynthesis out from the leaf is also an excretion that happens in the plant. It can be considered as an excretion. Another one important question you may have, that fecal matter, right? Does it a waste material? And if you ask this question, actually it does not. The fecal matter is not a waste material. It is full of undigested or unabsorbed materials. So you may argue with me that is also a chemical reaction. Then why don't you consider as a waste material? Yes, of course it is a chemical reaction, but the second condition is not fulfilled. It happened out of the cells. It is not happening inside the cells. It happened inside the alimentary canal, not inside the cell, outside the cells. So it is not considered as a waste material. But you should have a note in this. You know, the liver is considered as one of the main organ in digestive system. But we cannot give the ownership of liver to the digestive system. It performs, up to now, the 300 functions of liver is identified. It performs in various scale. Or the second biggest organ, it performs different functions coordinating with different systems. But the very important function of that is, during chemical reactions in the body, there are a lot of unwanted materials or radicals will be produced. So what are they doing to this radical? Radical means the active molecules, and they will be converted into different components. You know, the bile is one of the important products for the digestion. This bile is produced by converting this radical into different substances. You know, that is a byproduct, that is a waste material. Bile is a waste material. From the waste materials, bile is produced in order to use in digestive system, and even it is mixed with fecal matter. Fecal matter is not considered as a waste material, but clearly the bile is a waste material. Okay, that's all, children, today and in this lesson. And I hope to meet you in the next lesson, that where we study very deeply about the urinary system.